Let's connect. Okay, I think I'm connected. Let's see if this thing goes live. I think it's on, maybe. I have to wait a few seconds before it actually shows me in here. There I am. Okay, great. All right, so why do I have this set up like this? Let's move this screen over. I want that to be pretty much the full screen here. All right, so I'm just streaming right now. The area that I'm focusing on right now is a sample of Vigilante Racer that I want to do something much smaller for. So the focus on it is all about core mechanics of driving. That's what I want to evaluate on this. So here's the basic design of this. And keep in mind, I want to keep this game small, get something that I'm going to finish. All right. So we collect parts, we can break them off of trucks or just find them and sell them at shops. And Vigilante Racer, that's my anti-gravity sci-fi racing game. So we can sell them at shops, buy upgrades, combine with racing point to point, but set up a few target races. Ones where the player can race from one point to another, which will be named. And over time, they will learn more about their environment and and they will want to beat old times. Okay, so I'm trying to go off of produce a very small game, maybe $5 worth of a game. And I want a city that they can work with, that they can drive around in. Now, let's see if I have this stuff in here. I'm going to put this in. This was the first draft. I spent maybe a day putting together the art for this. Of course, I'm using an asset that helps out a lot. But I wanted to create a completely enclosed city where I could just drive around. Now, I think there's a couple gaps inside of here, but we'll take a look at that in a second and see. That's taking plenty of time to reload the domain. What am I on? 6.04. Why is the domain taking this long? Well, while that's doing its thing, let's bring up this one and I'll come back to it. All right, so core mechanics. The first one is driving the car. It's anti-gravity, and there is one core feature in it now. So, well, driving the car. Drive on walls, ceiling, ground, whatever. Any surface will do. Okay. Hover a few meters over it. And change angles easily at change angles by up to 90 degrees easily at regular speed. What is regular speed? Regular speed is the speed you travel at without pressing the boost button. Okay, next, let's see, that one is 1, 2, 3, 4. Boost. Boost speed. So the second thing is we can drive faster with the boost speed. Now, this so far is the core elements of what I have that's already in the game. We can drive faster with the boost speed, but steering, but this pushes us closer to the ground and means we cannot correct at full speed to get onto a wall of 90 degrees. Smaller angles like 45 maybe, but that's not really what I'm aiming for. I'm using that 45-degree wall as that choice. Okay, so 45, 90, we got 90 degrees. Now, the thing on this is that I want the design element to be a challenge. So this speed boost? the speed boost. All right, so the speed boost has to come with some kind of reason why we wouldn't want to just use it all the time. So one of the things uh, that we can't climb that wall again, not being able to climb the wall. So that's one of the challenges. It won't be able to do it. Also, turning will be slower. Of course, we're going at a higher speed, so we should be seeing this as an idea that uh, we don't want to turn as sharp. The idea is like if you're taking a car at a much faster speed and then you steer the wheel really sharp, that 90-degree turn, that spin out, you're going to be lucky if you just skid along the highway or the road that you're on, as opposed to flipping the car. So as we get faster, the turning slows down. However, this can tie into the mechanics even more. So 90 degrees down works better because the more intense gravity push down causes the car to correct to the downward wall. We'll see that in just a moment once I get the game up and running. Um, and the other one, but will drive off a 90-degree cliff without capturing it. Okay, I'm going to add one other thing in here, and that is a challenge just overall. This is not a mechanic. I guess it's a mechanic. It is specifically something you don't want as the player. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to say no surface. If no surface, speed is defined by the distance from the engine to the surface. If so, boost speed actually just pushes you closer to the ground. That's literally how it works. The mechanics, I have it set up so the amount of speed that you can do is based on the amount of power that the vehicle, or how much distance you are from the surface. So the closer, if you were able to get all the way right on the surface, you would be traveling at 100% speed. But typically it's not going to let you hit, it's not going to let you do that. All right, so boost speed actually just pushes you closer to the ground. All right. If you have no surface beneath you, your speed drops to almost nothing. And only gravity down works. Oh, yeah, and there is one other thing I'm going to put into this, and that is the gravity. Because I just want to call out that it's kind of a mechanic in how this works. So, gravity. Every car has its own gravity. So, when which will align automatically to keep me on the surface, whether that is a wall or the floor. The boost button increases the gravity. All right, so that's the basic stuff. That's just how the car moves. Now let's see if we're actually in. Here we go. I can just drive around. Let's see, we got a tiny spot here. See, if I do this, now I'm hugging the ground. Hey, there's no shadow. Do these materials have no shadow on them? Yeah, I can drive around like this, and it's kind of crazy to try to follow it. We can go off and we can start to see that there's actually a much larger world inside of here. Can we jump? Oh, make it, make it, make it, make it. Arf. Okay. So one of the things, like when I'm driving, hey, bring me back now. So I'm just going to move back and forth right here. And you can see that there's a bit of a, like when I'm moving, here's the speed. Now I'm going to press shift and I can go faster. It's almost twice the speed. It's a little hard to tell. I think I might increase that boost amount. Technically, just increasing the gravity will make that work. But that also means when I'm closer that the sensitivity to how much that the engines are pushing off the ground at the same time, that increases. And also, I can't steer in this when I'm like this. And when I hit the 90-degree walls, like this way, if it's 90 degrees down from where I am, then it just follows it at full speed. But if I go this way, oh, that was interesting. I went too far there. Now let's drop back down to the ground there. Ooh, can I correct to this wall? No, I guess not. Oh, there. Whoa. Okay. That put me in a spiral. Let's try that again. Oh, interesting. Cool. There. I'll take this side up. What's over here? Get to the ground. Thank you. And what about this side? Can I go up here? Okay, so I'm going to have to do some corrections on how the movement is working. For one, I can't steer at all right now, so I have to steer. I want steering to be reduced while I'm in this mode. Is this the one that goes all the way across? I can't remember. One of them goes all or very, very close to all the way across. Oh, I guess this is actually it. This is supposed to be right near the middle of the scene. What are we looking at on stats? Because I haven't done any cleanup on this. I'm just using a bunch of prefabs, which are actually kind of large. Oh, 13 milliseconds for my. Oh, wait, that's frame time. I got 75 FPS. That's fine. What am I looking at? Okay, so I think these numbers are fine. 250 draw calls. That's not bad. Cool. All right, so now I need to start considering what some of the other mechanics are that are going into this. I'm going to pause it for right now and let's go find where I am. Car. I can see all of the here's all the debug stuff to tell how the physics are working on the car. I can see that this part right here is 4.49 meters. And so it is putting on a 0.25, a 25% power level, which also means 25% power level going forward. Actually, let's go back to this for a second, and I'm going to hit Control to bring myself down, and no. If I'm holding Control, I can't do... Oh, wait a second. Can I do this? There. I hit Control P. So now let's go back over to this. We're... What? I thought it was right next to it. How did it... Oh, that stopped it from playing. How do I do a pause? What's a hotkey for pause? I gotta do a search for this. Unity hotkey to pause in editor. Is there one? Control Shift P. Okay, so let's turn this on. Play. I want to just check its settings because I've been making an assumption on the numbers and maybe I have something off in my math. All right. So first off, let's pause it here. And when I zoom in, we see what looks like 25% power over on the bottom. That's effectively what it needs to do. So over here, we're seeing a distance of 5.4, and then the maximum distance is 6. But wait a minute, those say 0. There's a, this is broken. This goes under the surface. Okay, my script is broken. Okay, so I definitely need to do some debugging on that. But anyway, I had a few minor issues with how the physics were working, so I need to clean that up anyway. But I can see the general way what I'm expecting is that these are at about 25% power. So now let's unpause that, click into here and hold Control and then Shift P. That didn't pause it. Okay, these are closer. Good. So now I'm getting power levels of 0.62. So that's like 62%. I also have these yellow barriers. That makes it harder to see for the debug colors. I'll have to change that so I can still read the text. All right, now let's go back into the game design document. So I need core mechanics. So I need to collect parts. Now, what can be best on this is when I take one of the ways that I would collect parts. That could just be that I drive into it. So I want to use the existing mechanics as much as I can. Now I have one that is a speed boost that lowers my gravity. Now, if an object is on the surface, it would make sense that I would come to maybe a stop over it. I come up to it and then I hold the control key down. In this case, it has other keys depending on what system I'm using or what controller. But I hold the controller key down and then that drops my gravity, which could become the interaction symbol for if I'm going at a low enough speed, like if I'm not pressing forward at the time, then that control key could pick things up. Now, another thing is I'm in an anti-gravity game, so I want objects to not necessarily be on the ground. Well, actually, why shouldn't it follow natural gravity? If the objects fall, they could fall to natural gravity and land. I mean, it's a game. We don't necessarily need this stuff to be that way. It could also be that all the equipment on cars has its own gravity stuff. So if something falls, breaks off of a piece of equipment or something, it tries to land in a proper place. Actually, let's go over to here. I want to go to a Unity fan, sci-fi car. Let's put that up here. So I really like Unity fans' work. They are awesome. I recommend you check them out. They do a lot of 3D work, sometimes in Unreal, sometimes in Unity. I assume that's where the name Unity Fan came from. But they have a lot of stuff up on, oh wait, not Sketchfab. That's not what I want. Where did you put your stuff up? Is it Sketchfab? Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. Sketchfab. But they put a lot of their stuff on CC0 public domain. No attribution needed, but give it. This stuff is cool. But you can see there's a lot of different car options here. Now, the ones that I was most interested in were the ones without wheels. And there was a truck that was in here as well. Like there's a smaller one, but that's not what I'm looking for. Where's the bigger truck? This one right there. That's what I'm considering for the idea of a truck inside the game. And then I suppose these cubes could be what I'm taking. Actually, that works out really well. Do the cubes separate? I don't remember. Let's download the 3D model and find out. Blender. Blended. Play off of the word splendid. All right, so I'm pulling that one down. Bigger than or slower than I expected anyway. All right, so open file. Yes, open the zip file. Now inside of here, we've got this extra equipment. Let's move this over. Where'd you go? Blend. Okay, we're gonna move that to downloads. Where's my blend? Copy to downloads. Yes. Why didn't it show me that a moment ago? Why is it there now? Okay, whatever. Oh, and I am still in Windows at the moment, but I'm running a dual boot system and I'm trying to make the conversion over to Linux. I found Unity tends to run pretty well in it, and I don't have many issues. However, the big issues that I'm running into are GPU related. I'm trying to set up my system so that Linux is the core, and I'll be running off of primarily off of the. I have an AMD Radeon. What was it? All right, so I've got an AMD Radeon 6600. That's what I want the Linux OS to run off of. And then I want inside of it, I want to set it up so I can run a Windows VM, uh, but I want to dedicate hardware. So I want to give it cores, not simulated cores where it's the Linux OS that decides to pass some of the stuff off to it. But I want to try, and same thing with a hard disk. I want to give it its own direct access to the hardware for an M4 4 terabyte drive. Dedicate out like 32 gigs of RAM to it that the OS ignores, rather than going through the OS. Get it to use the NVIDIA GPU. So I've got an NVIDIA 2080 Super, um, and the I wanted to have direct access to that. So the Windows machine runs directly like that. And one of the really annoying things that I've been trying to deal with is the whole GPU setup inside of there, like trying to get a VM to get real hardware. I'm not a Linux expert, and trying to get through all of this stuff to make it work, not that easy. All right. Anyway, but that's my intentions. Now, can I open Blender? Let's see what this sci-fi truck looks like. And I would assume that since there are three of those cubes that it's hauling, that I can actually move those cubes around, that they would be separate. So they produced one and then copied it over. Now, I should be able to also watch the YouTube videos to see how it was made. Expand this out. What? Is it? Oh, there we go. No, there. So here it is. Let's grab one of these. Okay, GY. Okay, that's just the outer shell. Okay, so they are separated out a bit. Well, let's just do that. GY, let's move that. What's this one? GY. I should have moved it with the other setup. All right, GY. No, I want to move it by like 1 meter over. All right, let's just do that. Move, and what do we have? -5 meters. Okay, and then GY, sure, and then -5. Okay, so we got this full cube right over here of what I actually want. Hey, does this top come off too? What is that? GZ? And let's go for a change of, was that negative? No, just there, 2. Now, that part, oh, there we go. GZ, that does not separate the way that I wanted. Oh, it's not too bad. Okay, so let's go to that one and say 2. And then what's this thing? GZ up and 2. And what's this thing? Oh, the whole frame again? GZ. Okay, so these parts are broken out along here. Okay. Well, whatever. I still got a cube that I can separate out, even though I can't take the cab off the front, but that's okay. I guess. Yeah, so I've still got the cubes that I can isolate out in this model. All right, so how would I take these things off? I suppose ramming them. I'm driving around in an anti-gravity car. I could ram into the sides and try to knock it off. Now, that would mean that each of the cubes are going to get their own individual physics. Not a big deal. I'm not putting 10,000 cars in this one. So each one, yeah, each one of the cubes gets its own physics. So let's say freight slash H4, freight falls off. Oh, collect cubes. So inside of this, when I'm creating these different mechanics, I want to set this up so that the mechanic shows up. Actually, you know what? I have live streaming up, but I don't have any feed to indicate, oh, look at all those views. I have 0 right now. That's cool. So what I'm looking, I'll just leave that up there in case anyone shows up, but whatever. It's not like I announced this. I probably should start announcing this. Hey, wait a second. I can, can't I? I'm still in here. Copy video URL, and let's go out to Discord and go onto the server. No, not that one. My server. Not that one. Still my server is what I'm looking for. Live streaming. GDD planning on. All right, I just announced that now on Discord after I'm, what, half an hour into this? And maybe a half an hour I'll still be doing this. Okay, so let's go to here and one other message. Okay, so collect freight cubes. That's the key thing that I want to do in this. We want to collect those freight cubes so that I can actually use them. Collect a freight cube by, how should I collect them? I want to make this all work together. So I've got one key. I could give it the game another key. So there is the consideration, do I want an action key? You know what? It does make sense to have an action key. That would be separate from dropping down. Okay, so I'm going to give it an action key by action key. And then the action key will operate multiple things. I can operate, pick something up, drop something, and we may also add some items in the game that react when we're pressing an action key. All right. Collect cube by action key when close enough. This can be sold. Sold, that kind of implies that I'm going to have a large, I'm going to have some sort of system inside of this, like a sales system. And I don't want to put too much work into the sales of this. So these ones are more like your credit points, but I guess you need to get it to a drop off. Collect freight cubes by action key when close enough. Freight cubes must be dropped off at repositories, depots, recycling centers. I don't know. How far off is that? Oh, my time on that was way off. Okay, that was like 8 minutes ago. Whatever. All right, collect freight cube by action when the key action key is close enough. Freight cubes must be dropped off at drop off points and turn into credit or parts. Now, one of the other things, well, what was this one? So I was, it had to do with the mechanics scene when we're developing the mechanics in here. So collect parts, sell them at shops, buy upgrades. Okay, that wasn't quite what I wanted here. It wasn't just to buy upgrades, it was that I would get random upgrades. So, for instance, I can modify the physics of the car so it acts more like an exotic, where it feels like it's on rails. I can get it to add more like a tuner, or a more typical car, and then another one where I can make it feel more like a why am I forgetting the terms for the different racing cars? I did so much study on this. Muscle cars. So for a muscle car, the feel is entirely different. When you turn, the front wheels almost feel like they're on a pivot. It just kind of wants to spin around that and just keep going around in circles around the front tires. And I've got a typo in there. So anyway, I can change the feel of how that works. And so those could be some of the things. They get a device that basically changes it and they can decide which tuner that they want on the car. And each one has different ways that it can be handled. And possibly I could set it up that that would be on different engines as well. All right, so collect freight and they get turned into credit or parts. Okay, this is also drop off. You know what? Let's create the drop off as a separate mechanic. Drop off freight cubes. Uh, Drop off freight cubes when holding freight. Drop off the cubes to get credit or parts from it. This is like dropping off the stuff that you got at your mechanic. That also implies that this would be the place where you get your upgrades. So you drop this stuff off. Now, another thing to remind myself on is that the game is supposed to be small. So I'm working with the game, or I want to keep this simple. I could add police in there that are chasing you, and so there's a challenge when you drop it off. Oh, that could be it. I want to put. I want to think of this as like, what challenges can I put in there? And so one of the challenges would be you have to drop it off right. So, for instance, you're holding onto the cube, it's chasing you, whatever the mechanism is, and then you find the depot and you have to kind of fling it into it. So you press the action key, that lets go of it, and then it bounces away. So you're traveling at speed, and then it bounces away. And you want to try landing it in there. That's its own challenge. Um, okay. I'm going to go with that for right now. I could change this later, but that's one of the things where you start to figure out how to do things and then I can keep improving it. Well, whatever. I forgot where I was going with that. All right. When holding freight, drop off the cubes to get credit or parts from it. Drop it off at a drop off site, which will have be specially lit to get attention. I was debating as to whether or not I'm going to include a map in this. I did the map where it was the round map instead of the cube. This one's a cube. The cube has to land on the spot. Land within a certain range of the drop off point. Missing it could mean you have to go recollect it. Now, it's a gravity game, and I could certainly put things in here where you have to play with the gravity of the object. So in this case, what we're primarily doing is we've got arrow keys and then buttons. So buttons, it's easy enough to, on the keyboard to have arrow keys on one side and uh, Control Alt on the other. Alt Control Shift on the other, space bar. Putting some of those in there to use. Actually, okay, Control Alt Shift and spacebar. That gives me 4 on that side plus the arrow keys, and the controllers typically have 4, so I think that's a reasonable place to put those, but that's reconfigurable and tunable later. However, I don't want to fill that many actions, not unless they are really meaningful, and in this case, it should be simpler. It should be easier. I'm trying to keep this lighter. Okay. Now, another thing is when I'm trying to go for a lighter target, and I'm putting these challenges into the play, those challenges could literally be the things that mean I don't have to code as much. For instance, making the car react well, or when I go from one surface to another, that it leaps at just the right setup to travel to the next surface, acting like a bridge that it can just go straight across. I could do that, but then I would likely have to program more. I would have to tune it to handle that properly. And I don't want to do that. So I can just literally make this a drop off point. As I get close, I let it go, and it's using the same momentum from my car carrying it. Now, I was also considering this like a snakes game. So I could potentially be carrying multiple pieces of freight that are all then chasing after me. And then in that case, do I drop all of them off or just one? I think in this case, I should just be collecting one. And then also, how long can I hold on to it? No, we'll deal with that later. Maybe we'll just do with one for now. Okay, missing it could mean you have to go recollect it. There could be a timer before it's registered as stolen/lost. So you have to get it back before then. That could also be the type of thing that happens when you get something more valuable. Now, the idea of the freight is that you don't necessarily know what's going to be in it. However, you have a certain time limit. So I could change. What was that? Where was that design on this? Do I have Blender still open? There. So I could change this. What do we have on here? We've got these cubes that are being hauled. And so if it's being hauled by the shiny metal one with 3 of these cubes on it, that indicates, okay, a nice, this is a nice one. So you go after these, that'll be higher value gear. Or maybe I could just change the colors. What have we got? We got 3 colors. We got a couple colors on here, like this gold trim. Let's put a dot there. Now that doesn't show up that much. What else do we have over in the UV? Hey, where's the texture? You got these colors. Where are those coming in? And is that just not up here? Image. No, no, I don't want to open an image. Isn't there a material already in here? I'm not a Blender expert either. I just typically use Blender the most. All right, so image, do we have one that I can use? Where are you getting your orange from here? Orange is gone. All the colors are gone. What mode did I go into? Oh, go back to layout. Select this one. Go to world, not world, material. I want material in here. Which one is that? There, material. Oh, it just literally has a color set with an emission. Okay, it's emissive, so I could set the brightness of the emissive. I can also increase the scale of this one particular object. So, but that includes, let's see how these ones are separated out. Hey, why is that going so slow? There we go. Much better. So if I've got that selected, can I just do S and expand? No, they're all individual. Or I mean, it's all one unit. That doesn't work well. I need to separate that out, so I'm going to take that item and I'll separate it per cube. So the cube gets its own setup. Now in this case, we've got 3 separate draw calls on here. And I think it would operate. I'm not concerned about performance. I don't need to worry about performance yet. That is a model tuning I can do after the fact. The fact that it's going to have 3 separate serial or materials that it uses, fine. 3 separate draw calls to make a cube. And so what I will do is I will just increase the size of this. In fact, I could also stretch it out to have it show up in these things along the sides, but it should show up on all 4 sides, all 6 sides. That way, if one of these is sitting off to the side, then I'll still see it. Now, the parts that are on here, how did it separate out? Let's just click that and go GZ. Does that separate out anymore? Okay, center. Okay, so this is it right here. This doesn't separate out anymore. Does that break into smaller cubes? Now let's just take this and hit tab. Now, let's go to 3 so I can select an entire surface. Okay, so within this one, no, not what I'm looking for. That's just a panel. But this is completely isolated. So if this takes impacts, I could have pieces of this metal framing come off. Doesn't need to be all of it. It can just be parts of it. Okay, so if I have this, what's the hotkey to grab all of it? No, I don't want A. I want all the pieces that are interconnected. All right, so let's do that. Blender, how can I take, how can I select all the connected faces and not the ones? Let's just leave it at that. It'll probably give me what I need. L. Okay, so I select this and then I press L. Okay, that looks right so far. Let's go to GZ. Okay, these are mirrored. It's got mirror modifiers going on in this, doesn't it? Mirrors, yes. Okay. All right, so I could still set that up so that this portion of the component separates it out. I can make that a separate feature. That'd be another draw call, and big deal. Okay, or I could set up a different material so that that stuff just looks cheaper. Whatever, that's separate. I'll leave those alone for now. Okay, drop off freight cubes. Registers lost, stolen. Okay, the timer. The timer has to be easy to see. Ooh. I kind of like the idea that if I pick up freight, I could actually return it for a credit reward. That, oh, look what fell off your truck. Okay. All right, what do we got next? So we collect the freight cubes, we drop them off. Now, we also need a mechanics place where we can upgrade. So I'm thinking in that case, it should just be a menu and I will just tune speeds. I will give the ability to tune the speeds. So sliders that can address like what ranges seem like they're reasonable. Now, I suppose one thing inside of there is that I could allow ranges that go outside of that, your speeds to go beyond what the physics would allow to handle. So, for instance, if you're going faster, it could go faster, but that might destroy the experience. It might make it even harder to control. Um, but that can be part of it. Like if you put the gravity, if you increase the gravity to 3 times instead of 2x, then you end up getting a larger, you get more speed, but you also are closer to the ground, which means doodads, things like that will affect you. Oh, some surfaces will be grittier. So I can put lots of little doodads on the surface. And when you drive closer, they really interfere. Now that should be lit. It should be illuminated somehow. We need to identify and make sure that the player recognizes what areas they can go faster. That's separate. Okay. So right now, the first ones that are in here, aside from a few glitches, these ones are done. These two are new. I have to be able to collect freight cubes. I have to be able to drop off freight cubes, and knock freight cubes off truck. Okay, so how would I knock them off? That was literally just hitting them. Just hit the cubes. Now, so far, I'm not putting any police element or chase element. I am putting the freight in there. I am planning on putting traffic. Oh, that implies that I'm supposed to have traffic if I've got these trucks driving around. I suppose I could just put the trucks in to begin with. The truck paths could be predetermined, but it'll probably be better that I just give them their own ability to drive. I think that should be easy enough. Maybe I can define some common routes that they take, but now I'm starting to get into a navigation system. And given the size of the world, where'd the world go? There. I mean, you can see this world in here. Oh, I've just got the plain background set to here. Let's change that. Oh yeah, but there's the building that goes, does it go all the way to the other side? Almost, it doesn't quite connect. Okay. I should put some other small building to make it connect across. All right. But yeah, anyway, so if I back out of here, then you'll see that this is literally just 4 separate zones that are put together. From the outside, we can't see the panels because a lot of these, they're just under here. So if I travel through this spot and then I turn around, there's a wall there. But if I travel through the wall, I'm now through there and here's the water there. So literally there's water underneath each one of these as well. And so several of these do have water, which is going to be confusing when you have that on multiple sides. But hey, we're messing with gravity. Why can't we have water that flows in multiple directions too? All right. Anyone know what this is from? I saw this GIF and I thought this was hilarious. And so I would love to know what anime this is from, especially if it's got an English sub. My Japanese is horrible. Sorry, that was in my downloads folder, and I wanted to. Anyway, all right. So let's see. I've got the world in here. Hey, wait a minute. Can I take a 360 shot from right here? Let's switch over to this one. On this one, plus image sequence, we're just going to go with a single frame. Single frame. Target frame 0. I don't want the game view. I want 360 view from the main camera, tagged camera. That's fine. Sure, whatever. Output resolution. In this case, I'm going to go with 4K. Let's do that. No. 2K. So 1024 by 2048. Oh, I suppose that would work easier than 1920, but I'm using that. 1080 by 1920. In this case, 2048. We'll just go with both. I want the spherical. 2048 match. All right. Cube map size 2048. Sure. Okay. Record in stereo. No, I don't care about that. JPEG. We're going to go with PNG output. Include alpha. There is none. Now, let's move our camera. Am I right in the middle? Let's go to, where's the camera? We'll add an object. This one. Now I'm all the way near the bottom here. So let's move the global volume to up about 500. Go to that. There, this should put me right about the middle of everything. Well, I guess I don't even need to be at the middle of everything. I'm just going to go to... Let's find a spot where I get a lot of visibility here. Oh, this is good. This has a lot of stuff to see. So now, can I turn off things like fog? I don't want the fog to show up in this. Whatever. We'll see how it does. Lighting. We'll just turn off fog here. Or reduce the intensity. What is that? Halo strength? No. 0.003. Let's adjust the fog. Turn it on here and see fog. There. All right. And since this is going to be for the reflection, let's also set the color maybe down to here in browns a little bit. Or make the water look like it's got some brownish tinge to it. All right, now from this one. Oh, I'm still running inside of this. Where's my camera? Main camera. Control Shift F. Sure, thank you there. And start recording single frame. Did it record its frame? Oh, it's paused. Okay, did we get that? What do we get? What is this big thing? What's this right in the middle of it? Like, it seems like I've got the world map, but then I've got this big cube thing here. What is that? Do I have, like, gizmos showing up on this? Gizmos, is that on? Scene view. Let's get rid of that stuff. Let's go over to game view. Gizmos are off. Okay, we're going to go up to scene view and let's just look around from that spot for a second. Why am I seeing that huge messed up spot? Output main camera, PNG, record in stereo, flip vertical. I don't care. Image settings, constant, single frame. What is it capturing? It's capturing something and I don't know what the heck that was. Let's try this again. Let's play. Go to scene, Control Shift F. Oh, it follows it back right over there. So something is wrong with the setup. Okay, let's go to the inspector and turn off. Not that one. Where's my camera controls? Camera chaser there. Oh, okay, yeah. Camera script. It's got the camera. We're gonna turn that. We're gonna turn that off here. And put this one. Control Shift F. Yes. Okay. And is camera chaser off? Yes. Okay. Start recording. It should just capture the first frame. I'm just trying to get a nice reflection on this. Should have done the one. Okay. All right. That looks much better. I like that. Okay, great. So now that I've got this, we're going to copy this. We're going to go back into the game. Vigilante 41, assets, Vigilante 41, textures, paste. Let's see. Sky. I will call it reflections. Good, that's in there. Let's set up our reflection lighting. Now, where do I have it? Camera chaser, turn that back on. Camera chaser is on. Save it. Main camera, everything there should be on. Let's make sure it turns back on normally before I move any farther. Okay, game is still on. Pause it. Next, we're going up to lighting, and I want reflections. Lighting, skybox material. Custom. Guy, is that? Environmental reflections. Yeah, I guess we'll set up a material for it. So that just uses a texture though. Where's my texture? Oh, is it expecting a different format from it? Render settings. 2D. Well, cube is supported. Very well. I don't care. Let's go back over to that actual cube. That one is found in 41. That's under textures. Where's my... Oh, Vigilante 41 is there. Settings, textures, reflections. What type are you set up as? Default 2D. You're just a texture. Yeah, you show up there. Everything looks right. Okay. Input sRGB cube. Does that help? Apply. Can I set this texture now? Sky. That is not it. Wait, oh wait, did I just call it something else? Reflections. I've been searching sky. Reflections. Okay. Now let's go find some water. Oh yeah, much better. It's not perfect, but it does a good job of getting the general buildings and stuff there. That one does not have water in it. Did I move the water separately on that panel? How about this side? Same thing. We've got what seems generally right here. Hard to use with a normal camera. Sometimes I want my orientation to just get messed up with the world so my camera can be right. What is that? Oh, okay. Is there no water on this side? I guess not. All right, I'll go with that. That's good enough for now. Um, make sure that this actually runs. Let's go with that. Okay, let's check this out. Oh, those surfaces have some reflections on them. And so now I've got these reflections starting to show across these. That is much better. Uh, well, that's broken. Okay, so everything has, all the surfaces in here have quite a reflection built off of them. No, I don't want to go there. An interesting way to see through this stuff. See, this is all an accident. Oh, I got stuck. I found a way to get stuck in the game. Good to know. Okay, so let's see. Go back to the design because that's what I'm here to focus on. Okay, just hit the cubes off the back. Impact with them will have a normal physics response. Wait a second, does the car actually have a collider? It's got a rigid body, but I don't remember if it has a collider. I think this one does, but I'm not positive. Okay, yeah, it's using a box collider. Cool. So there's my car. Yeah, there's the shape of it. Yeah, these numbers are off. I really got to fix that. All right. Once off the back, okay. Let's. They get gravity matching the vehicle they are connected to. Okay, if they get gravity matching the vehicle they're connected to, then that means their gravity is going to match the car. Even if the cube is sideways or wobbled, it's still going to fall down from the car's orientation. Now, inside of the game, we are back behind the car like this. So that means that if we have a cube following right behind here, we'll be able to see that. All right. Once they get the gravity matching, once off the, okay, that's weird, the ground, they get gravity matching the vehicle they are connected to. Once off the truck. So initially, it matches the truck. However, once carried by the car and dropped off, it matches the car instead. I feel like with this, I have these cubes. I could drop them in other places and they would land on the surface. And then I could use that to create things like bridges, but I'm not applying direct control. However, I am creating a playground that the players could use. Okay. With that, that means that it's let go of a cube, it goes where it's going to go. If I'm sitting still and I drop it, it will just fall down. I suppose I could set it up so it tries to match the orientation of the vehicle. Actually, that would make sense. If it's tethered to a vehicle, so I'll make that something about the cube. It is either tethered to a target or not. And if it is, it will try to orient its gravity to that, which allows it to stick to one of the trucks that are driving it. So with that feature on, it just sticks on the back. However, where was that? If I go back to Blender, we got the car here. Let's undo all these changes, put that back. That's as far as my undo history goes. Whatever. Let's go to this file and revert. Yes. Cool. Let's go to center dot, back out, grab it here. Each one of these cubes, they're just stationary right there. So I think until there is a physics interaction, that its physics will be turned off. Once there is an overlap between this and the car, then its physics turn on and it creates that collision, that kind of pop crash where all of a sudden they're overlapping, physics get turned on for the object, it gets knocked off the back of the truck, and then we carry it off. Okay. On the truck, it initially has no physics. It is a child of the truck. Then, on hit, on trigger hit, physics turns on and it separates from the truck. Gravity turns on and it tries to follow to match the gravity normal of the last car. So the truck to begin with. Okay, another mechanic in here is /H for drop. Drop the freight. Which, that's up here. We've got drop off freight cubes, but that's drop off freight cubes. Let's change that to just drop. And then I'll add some extra notes. These can also just be dropped and stacked, allowing the player to create their own game map. Oh, they could create shortcuts for the gameplay. The races need you to get from point A to point B, and the faster the better. You can replay it. So if you take the time to stack these cubes, you can create shortcuts. Because in the game, where is that? Right there. Yeah. If we just need to get from over here to over here, we could end up traveling down, making our way to here, and then coming back up this way. Or we could set up cubes that stack from right here or right here and start making its way across and up. And then I can drive on those cubes. That creates a shortcut. Same thing, I could stack them up here to, I don't know, go this way and then change the gravity when I'm driving on them to then come up this direction so I can get whole new tracks set up. Ooh, and because it orients to the surface, as long as if I'm on a surface like this, then they will build up diagonally. Okay, I think this is working its way out to become one of the type of player mechanics where the player will make their own challenges, like Minecraft. You get to place cubes in places. Now, I'm not designing it to work towards that. I'm not making Minecraft, but I will listen to players on this. I should put in a metric in here that tries to determine whether people are trying to set up cubes and how much is going on. And then once they do, how much do they do that? Because if I get players, like a lot of the player base, so if a player goes for stacking cubes, like for instance, they drop them and then they start dropping more cubes at the same spot, then that tells me that if the player keeps setting cubes near each other, then that means that they are stacking them most likely, that they're doing something to arrange it, even if it's just gathering them in a pile. So if I collect that information, then that tells me that the player is trying to build their world. Okay. So if the player's trying to build the world, and I'm not going to deal with that yet, but if I start getting the metric comes in that it identifies that the player is trying to build the world, then we need to, I would say that I should do this. Okay, so let's add this. Build the world metric. So analytics, creating analytics, a lot of games, a lot of programmers treat analytics as something where, oh yeah, the player hit the gas pedal, the player was steering, the player showed up at location X, that they just start at like one of the mechanics shop, or they picked up a cube. It says you just report that, and then you expect that in your metrics, in your analytics, the logs information, that you write queries to go against that and try to figure out what the player was thinking. And granted, you can get a lot of valuable stuff out of that, but this is the exact case where the metrics really make sense. And I'm tracking a player behavior. Okay, build the world metrics. In this case, the game is not built for world building, but cubes can be dropped off at different gravities and stacked. This means shortcuts can be developed to get better times. What? Yeah, I gotta cut it out. Need to get some sleep. All right. This means shortcuts can be developed to get better times, and players might enjoy this. I need to come up with two metrics. A, is the player aware they could build? And B, how active is their building? I can use this information to decide if I should show that the player can build something, and also decide if I should add features related to world building. Because I could have a whole economy around the idea that I'm building part of the world. All right. World building. Player are they aware? Equals, what was that? Are they aware? And how do we detect if they are aware? We detect that because they took a cube and they tried to place it. Now, how do we know that they're specifically trying to place it versus they just dropped it? They're just testing and experimenting. And that is that they dropped a cube that came in contact with another cube. They dropped a cube that came in contact with another cube. Is this important? Determined if this happens a lot, such as chaining more than 5 together, or create a counter indicating how many times the aware metric triggered. We can basically just report that they are aware over and over and over again. And they are aware means that they're dropping a cube next to another cube. So dropping one and it just lands on its own, that's going to be a lot of the time that it happens. But dropping it where it touches another one, that's going to be where they're doing something to create this. which also makes an interesting use for the cheaper assets, the cheaper cubes, where they know they're not going to get as much for them, then they become more potentially valuable to stack things. Okay. Again, this is not the gameplay that I'm focusing on right now. I'm not going to build it for it, but I want to identify that they are. Okay, so I just am reporting this. I should also report to make this meaningful. I should also report how long the player plays. The reason for this one is so that I can determine once they are playing, like they started a session, we got the timestamps in the metrics, and then they end a session. Start and end session. Driving session. All right, so start and end the driving session. I should also report how long the player plays. I want to tie this in with when and how often. I can I can build up a value of once every minute is high use case. Okay, so just a metric. It's not actually even being played, but it's something important to what I'm developing. I need to develop in here, are they aware? This system that they dropped a cube that came in contact with another cube. When that cube comes to settle, when the cube comes to settle, when the cube comes to settle, this is when it triggers. So settling is basically the idea that the rigid body has come to a point of low enough activity that it basically identifies that the object is stagnant. And until a new force is placed on that object, it will ignore all processing. Now, that is a particularly great point. That determining when that happens also means this is where it's resting. Is it in contact with something else, which basically means it's stacked up or it's slid right up alongside? I could have an object right next to another object and not make that connection, but where it's still got a tiny gap between them, even if it's imperceptible. But that's still close enough that most of the times that this happens, they're going to come in contact and I'll see it. To make this meaningful, I should report how long the player plays. Okay. Oh, the final thing is I need to upgrade the car. Do I care? No. I got the racing. I don't need to upgrade the car. I could just have them steal the cubes to begin with and then define that after. Okay, so let's add these. Slash H4, enter. Let's see. And if you're not familiar with this MD editing tool, it's Obsidian. Right now it's my favorite MD tool. Okay, so in this one, races. Race is literally get from point A to point B. You get more points every time you beat your previous best. So if I have this where every single time you do this, that you race, and if you get points, it's not just like how many stars did you get? It's can you do better? And in this game, with the physics control on it being something where it's easy to do, easy to learn, hard to master, that means that there's almost always places you can shave time off. So I think that would keep people playing more, or they would find more value in replay. Okay. Start by driving to a marked starting point and press action button. And I suppose if we have the cubes and the possibility of picking them up and dropping them off at the same locations, that you could do that. You press the action button, and what happens when you're there? Do you pick something up and start the race at the same time? And I think in this case that uh, I was going to say that the track should get the action by default, but no, no, no. The pickup should, because otherwise you may have dropped a cube and it's kind of blocking your path, but you don't want that there. You just dropped it and it didn't land where you want it. And now every time you go in to try to pick it up, it starts the race. All right. So, but you can clear the cubes out of there. Of course, maybe you actually want the cubes there and you don't want to pick them up and move them when you start the race. But I think that it's between the two options, one of them gets you stuck where you can't remove a cube once you've placed it there, and that can be a bad experience. All right. I'm pressing the action button. This starts a countdown. Action button in race will exit. Maybe. Pause. We'll put a pause button in this. Should have pause button. Pause option should have exit race. While you're in the race, it seems like something should change so that the player can't do other stuff like pick up cubes. But why not? They can pick up cubes. The only thing is, I don't want them to be stuck in a race. Well, whatever. If they're stuck in a race, they could still go over to another race start point and start the next race, and it just cancels the race they were in. Fine. That makes it easier for me to program. I just base it off of they get into a starting race and now they are inside of a race. They've got a counter going on and then they've got a target destination showing up. And then, race, they need a map. Slash H4 map path. Players need to find the way to the end of the race, or it's pointless. I need 3D tracking. Try it with the same mapping system I had before, plus a screen arrow pointing towards the destination. A 3D a 3D screen arrow pointing towards the destination. So as I'm traveling and the car's going this way, I can see that it's going off that way or off that way, etc. by the way that I'm traveling. Now, even though it's pointing that way, I can't necessarily see it. Oh, but I also want to be able to see more of the map. How can I set it to see more of the map? And I think that needs to be another special action. And that's going to be something I want to use at any point in time in the game. I want to be able to view and widen up my view so that I can now see more of this map that's in here. So if I go over to game view and I've got this, and then I click the camera and expand the camera out and go to field of view and suddenly expand that out, I can see a much wider range, up to a point. And then it starts to look bad. So what is this? 140? 140 seems good. Let's see what that one looks like. I'm going to get a much wider field of view in this. Oh yeah. And now of course it looks like I'm so much farther away from the actual car because I can see so much more of the world beneath it. And it is harder to track at this level. So this is a button that I want to press and expand out. Now the car, it needs to zoom in on the car as well because that distance was just too far. All right, slash H4 C world. C map. Players to negotiate the grounds, they should be able to see a wider angle. This is to help them determine the 3D, where they are in 3D space and what kinds of things to negotiate around in a 3D space. I want them to understand better how to get to point B. Not this needs to be another button. Boost, what do we got? Gas, boost. Gas is just forward. Boost is control. I'm just giving keyboard operations because that's what I default to. What they go into the final thing, that'll be different. Gas forward, boost control, action. Space. And then this one is another button. View world slash alt. I'll go with alt for now. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I go with this one. Also, the current car doesn't have strafing. I need to get strafing back into there. That would have been using control before. Now boost is using control. So I guess shift. Shift where it makes sense. Let's put that back in there because I am expecting it. Shift equal shift strafe shift. Okay, so that seems like all my keys. Anything else I do and then I add should get tied into those ones, CMap. And that is literally just to widen up the view. Pressing this brings the camera closer to the car and widens the field of view. This will be a lerp in slash out operation. Okay, so we got the map, we got the path on how we're going to show it, which means that we show the blip with a tiny 3D view of the map from the angles we're looking at, but that does mean that we will have buildings blocking it off. I'm going to have to refigure that out. In the circular arena, that made perfect sense because we saw the inside of the sphere, and so the camera was basically just on the inside looking outward, and then I only showed the points that were overlapping where the objects were. Now, oh, I could do pretty much the same thing and just not let it see the buildings. So I can see where I am as the car, and maybe I've got other points that indicate, like, here's the corner. I should hide the fact that it's a cube. The game is stuffed entirely into a cube. Like, this whole thing is just one big cube. But that's kind of hidden. It kind of disguises it and makes it confusing as to what the boundaries of the world are. And I like that. I want to keep that way. Okay, so CMAP. Yeah, skipping the buying stuff for now. Buying upgrades, the menu needs to be it. All right. CMAP. Okay, races. Next, we need race start. The race start was called out here. Race screen. Race screen start. Is there anything in this that I want to go? Okay. Action when at race starting point shows up with a UI, and action will start it. And what was it? The zoom out. The view. What was it? C map button gets rid of it. Or do I just have a left right selection? Yeah, we'll just do left right selection. That makes enough sense. Left right selection to choose start / cancel shows the time, changes the view to point at the target, then lerps the view back, changes. Here, lerps the view to it in the first place. Now I keep saying lerp. Yeah, I'll lerp it on a steady time frame, not based on how close it is to the angle I want. I want that speed to be smooth. And that means it should do a gradual start. So I think that's a slurp, but I don't think Unity has that built in. I'll just call it out, slurp. At least there was another engine that I was using before that called it slurp. Okay, race start. If in a race, comma, there is a timer running, if you start another race or exit the game, it just forgets the race you were in. Everything operates normally, but the target endpoint is highlighted with mapping to get there. Okay, race screen end. When completing a race, it will tell me how I did. How much time I took, and what my best score was. At the time, I don't need to have a lot of scores. I don't need a lot of scores, just the best. Now, some players may want to see a history of how they've done. And so a question would be, how could I detect that from a player that doesn't have the option available? Because I don't want to show it like, here's the option, and that I absolutely am going to be adding it, or that the plan is there to add it. Um, you know what? Maybe I could literally add that as a feature to it. Features to games like when you get to particular screens, it'll show you an additional button you can get to. And if you go to that button, it says, uh, I want to, I want you to add history to this. So I could put feature callouts. I like this. It's a small thing to add, but by pressing the action button at a certain spot, no, by being in the menu UI, I can add those. So it has to be from the menu UI. Maybe it's inside the game as well. So if I press the action button next to a particular location, it might have a call out on it, some symbol. I'm going to leave this alone for now. All right. Race screen end, race screen start. Okay. I should be able to see a list of where all these are. CMAP races. There is a floating marker symbol in the areas where a race starts. You know what? This is not obvious in all cases. So you find some by accident. By travel, while others are obvious. All right, now the mechanics screen, upgrade screen, tuning screen. There we go. UI. The UI for the pause menu should show the car. Should have a tuning option. Click tune, select tuning, select it to determine if there's anything. Go back to here for a minute. That's inside of this. Select the UI for the pause. The UI for the pause menu should have a tuning option. Select it to show the car and sliders to tune features. Also show that they can spend credits to increase number ranges. So if gravity force is selectable from 100 to 110, you could add another 5 or 100 points. Or the distance slash range speed increase could go from 2x to 2.5x. So you end up having, when you boost yourself closer to the ground, you end up getting a higher boost. Or you can also tune your gravity so that your gravity pushes you closer to the ground. And so those both have two different effects of how they are, but it's still a slider. You're just affecting how much you can slide it. In this case, I'm not going to be saving the options, so it's not like you get a garage with a bunch of different things in there. Should I change the visuals? That's the only other thing. At this point, let's go to visual extras. These are options, not mechanics. That provide additional features. Questionable / bonus features, not high priority. You know what? I'm calling it out right there. It's not high priority for this version. If I want to do something where I'm going to add visuals to the car and let you customize that, then that could be something I do later. So let's just get rid of that. And I can just add it in if I feel the urge to. I'll probably have plenty of other things that I want to do. Now, this right now gives me a lot to work with. However, there's not technically a lot to do. Like there's a lot in the list. But first off, here is driving as it is. Second off, collect freight cubes. That's you get close to a freight cube. So I got to put a cube in there. It's got to have collider and rigid body. And when I get within range, I need to press an action button and the car will pick it up. Oh, but not if it is on a truck. I have to knock it off the truck first. So I actually have to hit it. So there are a couple interactions around the heart cubes. So the drop freight cubes, collect the freight cubes, knock them off the trucks, build the world metric. I do want to know, determine that that's there. So we have a few to just basically interact with basic cubes. Now those cubes can change gravity too. That's important. Next is the races. So with the races, that had a few extra features. In this one, we're basically just having a timer that starts and when you're at a particular point and ends when you're at another. We will have something that shows you how to get to the destination. That is a 3D map. Based on your angle, it'll show you where it is in the world, and it gets larger the closer it is to you. Let's see, C map. We want to be able to widen our view. That's just a tiny camera adjustment. So it's very isolated, simple to do. The 3D map is also easy. Creating a 3D arrow pointer, also easy. But that's only once we have a target. So that only turns on once we are inside of a race. The race screen start, we're going to have a UI that comes up. This is associated with the pause menu. We need a pause menu. That was also one of the earlier items in here. Oh, and we need a spot to drop off. So once we have a cube, we can have a drop-off menu that shows up where's the nearest one, and that highlights up on the map, and we can see where the nearest one is. All right, but back over here, we can see the map. We've got the race start and the race end screen, which is also keeping track of the time that we spent. So once we cross that ending threshold, which we should only see the ends and get that ending one when we are actively in a race and it is the end for that race. And then finally, the tuning UI, which basically just shows a list of the options that you can tune. and maybe a little explanation of how it affects it. But you could go really crazy. I'll just let the numbers keep getting added so you can make the gravity go higher and higher. You could make the engine power go higher and higher. So you could end up with 1,000 gravity and 1,000 power, which means that your car will be forcing itself at a massive speed boost, but it'll be almost impossible to control. To the point that maybe your car drives off the side of the game, out of the boundaries of the game, because from one frame to the next, it completely passed a collider wall in between it. Okay, but they can tune it so they can control it. Oh, saving. I've been calling this one out where the option is necessary, but I haven't put it in here. Inside of this one, we're going to put /H4 enter save/load. Only one save option. Should I create multiple? Let's create a few save slots. You know what? I'm going to create 3 save slots. 3 save slots. Metric to report how many are used. Many with 3 indicates I should create more. Save the feature. Select a slot at the starting. Give it a name. Probably give it a name. So at least the save, you can choose which profile you were going into. Whether or not that has any effect on the gameplay after it's loaded up. Like, is there narration or anything? There's no story. There's no narration in this feature, in this game. Okay, 3 save slots. When exiting, it saves your state back. Now, there was a point where my state got flipped over. I need to be able to get myself out of that. So, the mechanics, tuning UI. UI option is only available in pause menu when you are in range of a mechanic shop. I think that'll work. And then that exit out. Then that means when exiting, we also need to be able to get back to anywhere. So let's also put in here save load. Warp. We need a warp in this. It'll basically return you to the mechanics shop. That way, if you get into a stuck position, you can return to the mechanics. All right. /H4 return. And then I start at a mechanics. Okay. Start the game over a mechanics. In pause/tuner state. The reason I would say in that state to begin with is so that you are aware that there is that section and you can just start the game. But otherwise, you will also see that there is the tuning option that you can immediately tune this stuff. All right. From pause at any point, you can return to the last mechanics shop you were at. This resets your position, your orientation, this will deal with getting stuck. Okay. And I've got some complications of how that might deal with the cubes when you pick up the freight cubes. So we'll see how that does. All right, I'm going to call this a night for now. I think that's a good place to leave off this design. All right. Talk to you later.